it has been the hardest year by far. The beginning of the school year, had him in a school, we were excited. The teacher had some familiarity with him from the previous year. We're like, this is the year. And then we got started and I'm like, this is not the year because this teacher, bless her, I don't think she really understood what it meant.
Hello, this is Rita, and this is me and my mommy's podcast, and then my mommy, and there's me, and I'm just talking about this stuff, and there's me tap dancing, because this is a tap dancing / autism podcast, and there's a bunch of animals, and I'll be trying to eat my hair, and there's a bunch of sand and the ocean. Also, there's all the soul talk stuff, I love all my mentors and babes. Oh, that, oh, and also, yes, like life stuff and tap dancing. Oh, and also there are my boots. My boots are amazing. Also, there's me, trying not to have a panic attack. Also, this is a podcast about me and autism and tap dancing and blah, blah, blah. I'm just ADHD in this thing. Also, this make you adorable puppies. That's my mommy. I am Leta. This is a human being. Anybody says anything bad about my mother, I will come for your careers. I don't care if I'm 13 and the top dancer. I will come for your careers.
I love her.
She's a little opinionated, especially when it comes to mom.
That's the way it should be.
Rebecca, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience? Because I've tried and I sound like a robot when I introduce people.
Absolutely. So my name is Rebecca Prejean, and I'm the CEO and founder of EB Graphics and Consulting. And what we do is we create accessible things for people in corporate. And so that means we sell into corporate America. We help them create accessible e-learnings, accessible trainings, accessible graphics, things that are usable for everyone. And it benefits not just, the employees, but also the business as well. So in my world, I look at it as creating a win-win situation for everybody. I help people be able to use the documents, the policies, the actual videos, all of those things, and the business gets the benefits.
You would think that would just be something people are like, we need this.
You would think, but it doesn't always happen that way.
I know it's been a while since we had our pre-interview. I'm so glad we managed to get this to work. You are not just doing this amazing work with corporations. You also have a son who's neurodivergent.
Yes, I have an 8-year-old. He will be 9 in 3 months. So we're coming up on another hill here, but he is autistic. And he was diagnosed at the age of 3.5 or 4. So we've been on the road for, a little bit, so to speak. But he's like any other kid, just super energetic and just marches to the beat of his own drum, and we let him do it.
I know we mentioned Leta started her own dance studio because she was bullied out of dance studios. She's giving me a look. Would you like to talk about that real quick?
Will you allow me to say curse words? No? Okay. Also, in my defense, if you didn't want the child to know how to curse, then why curse around the child when the child was burned?
Well,
I mean, she has a point, but
valid.
Maybe without the curse words real quick.
No.
Okay, she is definitely 13.
Do not deserve grace. I'm just saying.
But she is definitely. It's hard to believe she was nonverbal until she was like 6 or 7.
Never. I never would imagine.
I mean,
this is why you don't allow learning how to speak child around teenagers.
She was so good at dance. Well, she did face a lot of bullying from teachers who didn't mean to bully. She was so good at dance, they popped her up with middle schoolers and high schoolers when she was 7. And so my just learning to speak 7-year-old was learning to speak from high schoolers.
Okay.
Perfect.
Didn't mean to. There was literally one that I mean it to.
I know a lot of teachers, she's just done dance predominantly because we pulled her out of school because of her autism and her therapy schedule. And it was like, I'm already doing enough. I'm going to just homeschool you. Um, a lot of her teachers didn't notice the bullying and didn't notice that they were bullying her. Have you had that same experience with your son?
I've had a little bit of both, where I know the teacher's aware. And I've had some where I just don't think the teacher has any real awareness of what they're doing or really how they're feeling or how they're coming across. At the beginning of this year has been very hard for us. With Ethan in school, it has been the hardest year by far. The beginning of the school year, had him in a school, we were excited. The teacher had some familiarity with him from the previous year. We're like, this is the year. And then we got started and I'm like, this is not the year because this teacher, bless her, I don't think she really understood what it meant to have a child who was different in the class. She's very regimented, very everybody should sit up straight. I can tell that you're listening by looking straight. Like, he doesn't pay attention to me. He's just rolling on the floor. He's laying on the floor. He's doing all these things because he can't sit still. That's just not what he does. And it really bothered her. Just him not sitting in the seat bothered
You
her.
you can say that into your microphone.
Okay, give me one grown adult that I know that you know that sits up straight. Give me one grown adult of one of my past teachers that actually set it up straight and I didn't have better posture than them.
Leta, there
That's
isn't
fun.
any. Like, there aren't any. And that's something that I remember we were in his 504 meeting earlier this year, and I told her that. I'm like, we as adults don't even want to sit in the same seat for 8 hours a day. I don't know why we expect kids to do it, but that's a whole different beast. And then essentially, what, 3 weeks ago, 3.5, maybe 4 at this point, we found out that he was in art class and getting bullied. This one, I think she was fully aware of what was going on. I just don't think that she cared. And I think that in her mind, you're not doing what I tell you to do on a regular basis. So you get what you get. Like, she felt so comfortable with it. She outed herself. Ethan had told me, the kids laugh at me. And I'm like, that doesn't feel right for your regular class. I know that, teacher. We interact. So something weird is going on. I didn't say anything to anybody. A couple of weeks go by. She finally sends me this message talking about all the bad things that Ethan did for her that day. And then she proceeds to say this little girl was singing and then turned around, looked at her and said, Ethan doesn't like singing because of his sensory processing. And then continued to sing. And she's like, I told her to stop, and then she just didn't stop. And, she just kept going. I'm like, okay, so you have become completely apathetic. Thank you for outing yourself.
I
Now we're going
know
to take care of it.
Lita has had dance teachers who will come up to me and go, well, I don't know what's going, because she's severely dyslexic on top of everything else. And one of her dance teachers is like, she's just not concentrating hard enough when I'm making her read in dance class.
At least I know how to pronounce my last name right. At least I know that my middle name isn't freaking ever love in Spanish. I hate when people learn my middle name and use a Spanish accent. I will go insane. I will go insane. They make me insane. I'm sorry. I just can't. They make me insane. Those teachers, because they kept saying every time they said my middle name, they tried to do a terrible Spanish accent.
That feels wrong on many
Ask
levels.
me if I had Latina in me.
That feels wrong on many levels.
She may have, like her teachers keep telling me, it's not like anything we do will ever be something that she'll remember as an adult.
I remember you getting my father's culture wrong. I remember
says that?
you talking about my father wrong. I remember you telling me how to say my own dog's name. I remember you telling me what kind of studies I have.
Enjoy Ethan before he gets to this stage, Rebecca.
I mean, I feel like we're somewhat already there. Like, he's very sassy. I'm like, I don't like this.
I do appreciate her standing up for herself, but then the teachers come up and go, she's being a jerk. And I'm like, well, you kind of started it. Because like the whole name thing, let me explain it real quick before you go off again. She's been told she can't spell her name right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That I misspelled it on her birth certificate.
Oh, nice.
Her middle name, they're like, well, it must be Spanish. And I'm like, I'd like you to go talk to Commonwealth of Virginia and tell them their name is Spanish.
That is that is wild. Um,
They've told her they've even come up to me and gone, Leta's mispronouncing her last name. And I'm like, she's not.
Also, plus, at least I know the law works, and at least I know what my mother's last name is, and at least I know there's two different last names.
who says that to people? Like, who
Her
says it
dance
to
teachers.
people?
And then they come up to me and they're like, did you know that Leta doesn't know you have the same last name as your husband? And I'm like, well, I hyphenated and then used my middle name for my maiden name for everything. So yeah, as far as she's concerned, we do have two legal last names. And they're like, oh no, you have to have the same last name.
No, I
But
don't.
her autism is the reason she doesn't know how to spell her name. Her autism's the reason.
Okay,
I
last
just
time I checked, there are actually cultures out there where the husband and wife don't share the same last name,
Yes.
and that's on the children.
but so like not only was she told your autism means you can't spell your name. I'm like, it's 4 letters. I think she can spell her name. I think she knows how to pronounce her name. She got, well, if she would just quit being so lazy, she could read.
Yep.
The number, and I'm sure Ethan gets this a lot. If you're not looking me in the eyes.
The looking in the eyes is always fun. He never looks at me. Like, no, he doesn't look at me and I'm his mother. So you're okay, I promise.
And then
Or it's the looking in the eyes, or for him lately, it's been he's not walking in the line straight like like the other kids, or he's not walking fast enough. Things that truly have no bearing on whether or not he's intelligent, smart, a nice kid, respectful, capable. Nothing at all. The boy needs a break. So yeah, when he's in the line and that's the only break he has, he's gonna savor that. And I'm okay with it.
Lita's laughing because she also got told a lot of you're stimming. And for autistic people and neurodivergent, stimming is normal. Her stimming is a complicated 3-point tap move. And she had teachers try to correct it because they should be able to correct how she's specifically doing her subconscious stimming.
at least I know the beat of the music, and at least I actually go on the beat of the music, and at least I don't say go on the beat of the music. Well, I'm actually going completely and totally off of the beat of the music, not even doing the music, and completely and totally doing choreography that isn't for the music, and it's completely and totally for a whole different genre of music, a whole different genre of
Okay,
life.
she does tap dancing, and tap answers the beat. So the beat's, 1, 2, 3, taps on that off beat. Well, dance studios cannot seem to understand why they don't have professional tap dancers coming out of their studios. They're training on the beat.
Oh, so they're wrong.
Yeah. And then they're sitting there telling her she's wrong because she's doing it the way her professional choreographers told her to do it.
Love it.
But I'm sure I don't know where she got her attitude from. Maud Arnold.
At least I'm not going around telling people that animals can't dance.
You got the talkative Leta today.
Awesome. Love it so much.
Sometimes I have the problem. The teachers they're dance teachers, so they don't have an education background. So I tend to not, when they're sitting there trying to tell me how education works, I'm like, I know I don't have an education background. My PhD is in something different, but at least I went through, multiple years of college. Do you ever feel like just asking the teachers if they've had any background in special ed when they're telling you this stuff?
Honestly, no, because I'm like, your answers tell me everything I need to know. Like, you have no experience, or at the very least, if you do, you have completely thrown that out the window in most cases. It's like I don't even get into the minutia because it'll just frustrate me. And for me, I look at it as it doesn't even matter if you have that experience or not. You can treat people like a person. You can treat people like they're human. You can treat people, with respect and dignity and not even have any knowledge of that stuff. You can just say, well, something is different there. And that's what it is. Ethan's gymnastics coach, because we put him in gymnastics, he has just so much energy. I'm like, you got to get this out. She can't be more than 20. Like tiny, tiny girl, all these things can't be more than 20, if that. And she's probably been the most patient person I've encountered with Ethan in I don't know how long outside of just professional therapists. So I'm like, if this 20 something year old young lady can be respectful and kind and just register something is different, I don't know what it is, but I know something's different, then I think educators, adults, grown humans can do the same. I think it comes down to choice. I think it comes down to openness. And I think it just comes down to what we lack right now in society. Just being
Patient,
all out human, patience, kindness, all the things that we teach our kids in kindergarten.
our lead teacher at the dance studio, everyone comes in and goes, how long have you been working with autistic kids? And our parents are now crying. I know when we talked, we hadn't really gotten the studio, but it's finally jumping. We're having to turn kids away, which is making me sad, but we're trying to fundraise enough to get a larger space to not have to turn them away. Um, our lead teacher, everyone's like, how long have you been working with autistic kids? And she's like, I know nothing about autism, but she's asking parents questions like, is this
Yeah,
hurting their ears? Do I have the sound up too high? Is the lights up too, are the lights too bright? And she's being patient, and patience goes so far.
yeah. She's being curious too.
She is. And I love watching, because she doesn't understand, but having been in the community my entire life and having a child, uh, she sometimes is more patient with the kids than the parents are.
Yeah.
And she's telling the parents, sit down, the child is fine as long as they're happy, as long as they're moving. I am happy for them. And the parents just start crying, going, you mean you're not judging my child?
Yeah. It's taxing. I People will never understand that unless they are a parent. It is taxing. People look at you, people judge you, and now in today's society, they see your autistic child going through something, going through a moment. Like, obviously, that child's not disciplined. That child doesn't get any discipline at home. They just run wild, and you're like, that's not the case. But okay.
No. Did you want to say something, Lita?
Yeah, those people are obviously parents, and if they are parents, they're obviously terrible, 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 terrible parents. Because if their child is will behave, I'm questioning how does your child ever have a meltdown? Are you abusing your child? You're probably abusing your child without a
Valid.
hog tying them.
I'm like, valid point.
We've had parents apologize because their kids are almost at meltdown stage. And Gail is like, it's okay. They're having a bad day. We just roll with the flow. And the parents are like, wait, you're not going to judge me? And she's like, just go sit down. It's okay. And she just doesn't understand, because the parents then start crying, like, you actually care about my child? And I'm like, you don't understand. And she's like, people are actually judging them for their kid being autistic.
Yes. All the time. That's constant.
We have kids in our studio who have actually been kicked out of other autistic programs for being too autistic.
Yep. And I think that's a conversation we probably need to start having within the community. And I've talked about it with several people as of late. Who are we talking about when we talk about disability rights? Are we talking about the ones who present in the way that we want them to present? Don't have any problems, don't have any bad days, or high functioning? Are those the ones that we are talking about? Or are we talking about everyone?
We are, I think one of the problems with the autistic programs here in our community is one, they're not run by the autistic community.
Mm.
The dance classes are run by dance teachers who have a heart. Do not disagree with me. Go ahead.
Like heart. What point of heart do you mean? What point of heart do you mean? What point of ever loving? Do have we not gone through this 1,000 times? What point of ever loving heart do you mean? If they have a heart, it's clearly not beating right.
I
Well,
love
that are
the
not in the test.
The 13-year-old has an opinion. They dance.
It's not an opinion. It's the truth.
They're for kids ages 3 to 8 who are verbal and potty trained. And they're autistic classes. And they run between 20 to 30 kids in a class.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. That's a
How
lot
do you
of
keep track of children? How do you make sure there's not one child that
That's a
literally
lot.
escaped out the window and went to the road to die?
but
30's a
they're
lot.
they're not autistic informed. They have hearts. They want to help the community, but they don't like we're talking we need elopement alarms on our new building because, we've got level 3, level 2, and I mean, Leta even eloped as a child. But you have to put these security measures up. And they're like, wait, a kid running away is called elopement. And I thought that was what you did when you got married without your parents knowing.
Oh.
What
Like,
are we talking
there's
about?
so much there. There's so much to unpack.
What are we talking about?
The lack of I really do think they do have a heart. They just don't know what they don't know. And by not knowing what they don't know, they're doing more damage than good sometimes.
Some people get into these spaces and they come in with the best of intentions. Like, they don't come in normally saying, I'm gonna make this a crazy situation and make this wild for everybody. Like, they don't normally think that initially. However, having no context, no background, no knowledge, no experience, and not being open enough to do the research even before you get into the space, it creates the chaos. And they can't help but let some of that bias come in, which is probably what Leta has seen, like some of the bias and the crazy and the things that you're like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you know this? They come in with the best of intentions, but their lack of knowledge completely cripples them in terms of being able to sustain things. Like, it just becomes problematic and the bottom falls out.
Yeah, I know. They all looked at us weird because the autistic community, we will all admit we have a love-hate relationship with our IEPs and 504s.
Always.
But Leta and I were talking while we were in DC right before this opened, and we were like,
almost forgot to put allergies on this thing.
yeah, I almost forgot to put allergies on. But
text issues.
This is why I have you, is to help me out. But we took the good parts of the IEP and brought it into the studio, and we're having parents fill it out prior to entering the studio, and our adult dancers too. And being able to go, hey, this is how they process the English language. This is what their therapist says they have been diagnosed with, has made a world of difference to our dance teachers. They might not understand it, but I can sit there and go, hey, let me bring in an SLP who can explain it in smaller language than I would explain it. And the dance studios around town are like, well, but why do you, autism is just autism. It doesn't have like all these other diagnoses that go with it.
Okay.
And I've seen that in the public school system too. I had a teacher tell me last week while I was dealing with someone's stuff, oh, but I didn't know that autism, they did not know that speech issues ran a gamut too.
Wow. It's wow.
So, I have no evil plans.
She's planning on becoming a supervillain, I think, when she grows up.
No,
Hey.
I leave that to develop. Develop.
That would be her dog. I know as a parent, you also face this on a regular basis within the school system. Is there ever a time you want to, like, how do I put this nicely? I get that you don't respect me as the parent, but I might know a little bit more than you, teacher.
Oh, that's all the time. Uh, People always act like I don't know who my child is, and sometimes I just let them figure that out. I think there's a fine line, I feel like, as a parent, between letting people just, pardon the language, F around and find out, um, and having to advocate. Lately, I have chosen I've advocated. I've done everything I can do throughout the entire year. I've told you repeatedly, if he doesn't get breaks, it's going to be rough for you. I've told you, give him headphones, give him a break, do all these different things. At a certain point, I can no longer do anything more. I've advocated, I've done what I can. So now it's your time to figure it out and find out. Uh, and usually they come back to me anyway, because they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I've told you what to do. This is what you need to do. This is the time that you need to do it. And usually at that point, they'll come back or whatever. But at a certain point, you almost have to be kind of hands off because you're like, I have a job. I cannot keep running up here. I cannot keep doing these things. I send my child to school so you can educate him and do your part in raising him as well in the village. Since you choose not to listen to me, I'm going to let you find that out for yourself.
Yeah,
I choose
thinking
violence.
we had some dance teachers who were like, no, I don't need parents telling me anything about it. I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, I know how this is going to end. I'll just let it play out.
I have one thing,
And
at least I'm not the one trying to bring a school system into ever loving bullshit dance. I mean, seriously, I come to dance class for dance, not talking blah 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 blah. Let me tell you about my childhood. Now let's talk about science. Now let's talk about English. Now let's talk about history, even though this is dance. Blah 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 blah.
dance teachers tend to go from like real jobs during the day to teaching dance at night. And they do sometimes tend to use their dance students as therapists.
Really?
Like seriously, at this point, I should have a full fucking degree.
Okay. Watch the and so they're like, you as kids need to leave your lives outside the dance studio, but I as a dance teacher will tell you why I'm having a bad day.
Wow.
And my child is like, if you're not going to care about my issues, why should I care about your issues? Which cometh downeth.
I was gonna say, yeah, people wonder why I'm so violent.
I think that's just Gen Alpha, period. You guys grew up with a major pandemic.
Well, yeah.
Um,
Time of COVID.
I did also want to ask you about that, which is going to sound strange. Ethan is Leta's generation. Gen Alpha had a lot of issues with a little pandemic in the early 2020s.
Yeah.
She's giving me a look. I know with Leta, we lost a lot of necessary hours in therapy. Did you guys have the same issue?
We lost some hours with therapy. I think for him, though, we lost so much more than that. Because right before COVID, we had started to see a lot of growth in terms of like his speech, his social stuff. Like we were seeing real growth. And then the pandemic hit, and it was just me and him at the house, at his dad at the time. We were all living together, but he worked overnights. And since he was around people, we were like, you have to go quarantine in the bedroom. You can't see us. You can't talk to us. Absolutely not. We cannot talk to you. And so it was really just me and him for almost a full year. And so we lost a lot of ground in a lot of ways. And I also don't think that people really count that, like, at all when they're talking about our kids and where they're at. They don't think about any of that at all. These kids, some of them need some of the social interaction. They need these hours of therapy. They lost that completely, bottom dropped out. And now you're wondering, well, why are you struggling here? Why are you having difficulty here? A lot of this is common sense. I Just don't think people get
I
it.
think the problem there is it's common sense, and I don't know that we have a lot of that right now.
Oh no.
We
Not
have ever loving freaking Gen Z. We have ever loving the newborn boomers. We have ever loving boomers apprentices. And now they're
I'm
all
pretty
probably turning 20. Well, not all of them. I don't count the younger Gen Zers.
As a millennial, I'm kind of enjoying this alpha Gen Z issue going on right now.
Okay, I don't want to catch their stupidness. It's probably contagious.
I kind of feel like Gen Z deserves this. I don't think they understand. I don't think Gen Alpha, and I think that was also where I was getting with my point. They had 2 to 3 years of even us masking, us distancing.
Yeah.
Even once we got out of the house, it wasn't like we went, I don't think we got completely back to normal till last year.
Yeah.
And
I'll agree.
this was their formative years of trying to figure out how society works,
Yeah.
which was probably just as problematic to the neurotypical kids as the neurodivergent kids.
It was bad for all children. And so you now have this weird place, like you guys were talking about, where if you even just go online and watch a simple video of a baby or a child, you can see the generational divide of people like, I can't believe that child needs that. Why are you doing that? Blah, 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 blah. We weren't like that when we were younger. And I'm like, y'all, this is a whole different set of people have gone through a lot of stuff. I, I was talking to my sister the other day. She's an educator. It has been for what, about 20 years. She's been in education. And we were talking about all the stressful things that neurotypical kids deal with on a regular basis just in school, and then compounding that with what it's like for a child who's neurodivergent. Like, let's be real. Growing up, I didn't have to worry about school shootings. Like, that was never a thought process. Columbine was like the first thing, and I was a freshman in high school when that happened. Like, that's how far into the journey I was. We weren't, there was bullying going on, but I don't think it was as fierce as it is now. Social media wasn't a big thing. People weren't comparing themselves on social media. It was other stuff. If you look at the kids going through things today, huge amounts of classes, like 30 kids in a classroom. My son has, I think, 24 right now in his classroom. And they started off at, I think, 20. So they've grown a little bit. But you have these huge classes. You have a teacher who is dealing with all kinds of crazy, lack of funding, just crazy expectations. Let's all be real. Some parents that are completely wild, off the reservation doing weird stuff. Just, it's a lot as a kid right
It,
now.
it is. My sisters and I both all had friends at Columbine.
Mm,
So that was, but that was a day.
that was the day.
I'll talk to you afterwards. You've heard about it. You've just heard about it from my point of view and not other points of view. And where some people I knew were was not where, um, you know, I think because I grew up in the Denver metro area and I went to church with a bunch of the Columbine kids and were in youth group with the victims. And, but, it is different. It is extremely different. The amount of funding, we're in Colorado, we've got restrictions on how much we can spend thanks to a stupid law called Tabor, which I highly do not suggest the taxpayer bill of rights to anyone else. And we're going to cut funding to the special education programs to try and make up for the lack. And they're talking about cutting Medicaid to make up for the lack of funding we have for schools right now and cutting the school lunch program. And I'm like, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but hangry kids are not going to be happy kids to teach.
No.
One that those other budget cuts I don't know make it where I don't know. The next generation might not make it to 20. And I don't know, the next generation not making a toy would lead to nobody making new babies, and no more babies means no more humans, and no more humans means the animals are surviving, and the humans are gonna die before the
Oh,
Nova Star
yes.
even freaking happens. Like, seriously, before the Nova Star
Yes.
happens, humans.
Seriously, Gen Alpha is going to be a totally amazing yet totally different generation.
All the opinions
All the opinions, and when
and
they
the
were young
voices.
enough for us parents to tell them to shut up and like let other people talk, we were all stuck inside.
Yeah.
We didn't have the ability to tell them, hey, this is how you act in real society. And the last historical deal like this I have found researching would be when Isaac Newton came up with gravity. That was the last time we had that big of a long-term pandemic.
I'm like, so a long time ago.
So a long
Completely
time ago, where
different.
like everything changed. He came out, there was a Regency, there was an Isaac Newton, there was, Dracula. I mean, we've been a little bit.
It's been a bit, but
Oh,
it's one of those things like you were just talking about them cutting all this stuff. Here in Texas, we are really having a time about school choice vouchers. And people are like, well, it'll give people a better chance at finding what's right for them. And I'm like, you don't seem to realize most of us that have special needs kids, we're not sending our kids to a charter school or a private school here because they don't have the resources, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have anything that we need them to have. The public schools, yes, they are struggling, but the charter schools and the private schools absolutely don't have that. They don't do IEPs. They don't do any of those things. And so that's just setting us up for failure. It's a problem.
we had her in private kindergarten, but even her private kindergarten was overcrowded. And I'm like, I am not paying 4 figures a month for overcrowded schools. Thank you very much.
We're also now paying 4 figures in a month for the, I don't know, police station. Keep finding your child every 5 minutes. Every time we had the school field trip, and just keep on finding your child.
They didn't understand the elopement when she'd go on school field trips. I was, you know, working a little bit more at the time, and um I'd got a call a few times from our local sheriff's department saying they had found my nonverbal child and they weren't sure if I wanted her back because we knew members of the sheriff's department, and they're like, so we're at this Southern State Fair and we may have gotten her like candy and soda and she may be a little hyped up on sugar. Do you want her back? And I'm like, that seems like a you problem now.
Like you have to let that work its way out and then call me because that wasn't what you're supposed to do.
I'm like, is this the standard operating procedure now of the sheriff's department? And they're like, but it was Leta and we just found her.
I love that. It was Lita.
Yeah, they're like, we just found Leta wandering by herself. So we assumed she was with her school because we know her school's here, but they haven't come to collect her yet. So what were we supposed to do? There was candy, there was soda. I'm like, well, it seems like she's your problem for a few hours now. But I never understood, and this is the school choice person in me. I don't get the charter schools and I don't get private schools taking public funds, because once you take public funds, you should have to follow the public rules.
Yes.
And
And they
we
don't.
homeschool, yeah, we homeschool completely where I control everything. And people are like, why don't you want to do like options or stuff? And I'm like, because if I wanted that, I'd just have her in school. That makes more sense to me.
I wouldn't have taken her out and spent my time if I was going to do those other things. But as you said, if you're getting public funds, you should have to follow everything that public schools follow. And that is not what they're doing. And we already know the majority of people who will use those programs, and they are not the people who we are pretending these programs are for. They're just not. Like Ethan will never go to a charter school. He will never go to a private school. Um, when I had thoughts of sending him to a private school, never forget that they brought us in to let him test. At that time he wasn't diagnosed or anything. And I'm like, he has some social things going on, stuff like that. We finished that testing, and within 20 minutes, they sent us a rejection. He had told us it'll take a couple of days to review notes and things. Yeah, 20 minutes after, they're like, no, thank you, because he didn't fit the mold. So,
She was in Montessori preschool, which was great for us because I needed that village to try and help with some of the preschool stuff, like potty training. But they took money from the public school system. And so they were like, well, we can get her an IEP. And we went, and her neurologist and I showed up telling her preschool teacher, you have to be quiet, you have to behave, because this is not going to go well for you because you're true Montessori, where it's very child-led. And she's like, no, it's going to go fine. They're just going to tell me what resources they have to help me help her.
Okay, I would just like to say in advance, boy, rocks, throwing, everyone, hammers. And we had a human being coming in one day trying to tell us what a crush was when we were old, not even knowing what a relationship was.
So her preschool teacher and us walk in, and we're sitting with the IEP in the IEP meeting. I've been in 1,000 of them. She's been in 1,000 of them. She's just never been with one that's truly, because Leta had at that time no receptive, no expressive, and she was melting down. Totally normal reaction to that. And her preschool teacher goes, what I could really use help with is figuring out how to explain to her, all I'm asking her to do is go use the restroom before we go outside, because she's having meltdowns. And they went, oh, you didn't tell us she's been aggressive.
It was literally a boy throwing a hammer and rocks and toys and basically everything, and one time almost cement.
The boy was in the IEP program, and she's like, but you told me he's not aggressive. And they're like, oh, but he's a boy. She's aggressive because girls having meltdowns means we have to label her as aggressive in the system.
Well, I'm nervous now.
Wow. That is a lot to take in. So he can throw rocks and hammers.
Because boys do that.
I mean, I wasn't violent then, I'm violent now, so they were just saying what was gonna happen in the future.
I'm like, that's
I'm sitting there. Yeah, her preschool teacher just goes off, and Leta's neurologist and I are looking at each other going, it's usually the parents complaining that you've labeled a child aggressive.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, so girls can be labeled aggressive if they're melting down, because meltdowns
are not ladylike, and therefore it's aggressive to do.
At least I wasn't throwing rocks.
Yeah, but that was when I looked at your Montessori teacher and went, this is why we don't have her in the school system. And your Montessori teacher, because they brought in an ABA therapist to work with you, and she's like, get out.
Oh, yeah, wasn't that the one that kept aggressively holding my hands, and my Montessori teacher had to keep making sure that person didn't go 50 feet near me or else I was bruised?
And then I had to explain to her, but you realize you have to do this because you're taking taxpayer dollars. And she's like, hi, can we not take taxpayer dollars next year?
Bringing up that therapist, one time I vaguely remember going to the bathroom, washing my hands, coming back, using my shirt to wash off the water, and then being aggressively pulled away, and then my hands being aggressively held, and then my hands turning pink for like 5 minutes. And then being told, keep my hands to myself. While I was keeping my hands to myself, I just couldn't reach the paper towels because they were the height of a friggin' adult. And then I was aggressively dragged back. And then I'm pretty sure they were fired afterwards because I never saw them again.
I hope so.
They weren't fired. They continued to work at their therapy clinic because that is approved was approved treatment where we were living at the time.
Did hands pink for like 5 minutes? Well, it was either pink or red.
But your preschool teacher was like, because they were trying to give you guys accommodations. They just wanted to make sure it was accommodations they agreed with.
They liked, even though that's not how that works exactly.
I mean, they were just like, because the ABA therapist was like, she has to learn to sit still for 15 minutes straight. And her Montessori teacher's like, that's not how we do Montessori. She's
So
like,
much
she's
about
3.
that.
Please do not make the 3-year-old sit for 15 minutes straight. It's going to drive me crazy as her teacher.
Well, that and it's just not realistic. I keep going back everything that we've even talked about today. I keep going back to we live in a society where people forget number one, kids are kids. Um, they are not many adults other than Leta because Leta is absolutely an adult in a younger body. Like that's what that is. But like overall, kids are kids and they're going to make mistakes and they're not going to sit still all the time. They're not going to do everything that we want them to do because they are kids. And I really do feel lately like a lot of people will take like a 3 or 4 year old and be like, be a mini adult. And it's like, yeah, that's not happening.
The amount of parents complaining, well, my child is not eating mashed cauliflower. And it's like,
Whoa.
dino nuggies are good for anyone, especially a 3-year-old.
Like, what?
I get on Reddit every now and then, and like the number of adults who are like, well, my 3-year-old does not seem to have a refined taste.
It's
They're
a
3.
3 year old. They're going to eat pizza, chicken nuggets, fish sticks, and maybe some sandwiches. Like the rest of it, it's roulette.
But there are so many, and it also comes back to that judging, because you get kids out in public and other people are judging them going, well, why aren't they behaving like mini adults? And you're like,
Let's see, walk away. Secondly, get a child. Thirdly, remember your childhood. Fourthly, you were a child. You should know how children act. You were a child. Fifthly, were you never a child? Are you an alien from another planet? Please tell me you're an alien from another planet or a clone of another human being.
Lena,
You are clearly not human because you clearly never had a childhood because you clearly don't know what a child is. Thank you very much. Walk away. Just walk away. Walk
I like
away.
to walk away.
I left.
Walk away from me. Just walk away.
so I think one of the things teachers don't quite get about these Gen Alpha kids is we did not have those. It was probably about 4 years of teaching them how to properly interact, because even at school they had their masks on. They were,
Yeah.
socially distanced. So it wasn't like the teachers could go, let's not do it this way. And she was like 8 when we went into all the COVID restrictions. By the time we came out, she wasn't allowed to play on certain playgrounds anymore.
I mean, yeah. He had to have been, it had to have been around the time he was diagnosed that all started because we had really just gotten him into speech therapy. We hadn't even attempted occupational therapy or anything else. It was just speech and like feeding therapy because he didn't want to eat anything with certain textures. And by the time he came out, we were literally talking about like kindergarten and things like that. And I'm just like, good grief, it's been that long. And I don't even know if it registered how long it had really been of just that being your norm. Like, we're not even going to the grocery store. We used to send his dad to the grocery store, like, oh, by the way, go pick up some groceries. Leave them in the kitchen, though, because remember, we're not talking to you. And then go into your quarantine box.
She was doing occupational therapy and physical therapy over Zoom. And they were doing like how to properly hold the pencil, how to properly eye track, stuff you need to be in person for.
Yeah. Yes.
And then when she switched to in person again, they weren't even doing the plastic masks for her speech. It was a full N95 masks, which is problematic because you need to see how to.
Because you can't see.
Yeah. And I don't think people understand. And that was, under 10 those kids, it was their formative years. I know we spend a lot of time, Gen Z missed their middle school dances. Gen Z missed their high school proms,
Again,
which are
who would want
huge.
to go in circles and do the waltz for hours? That's
Oh,
not that's not a milestone. That's literally just boring people's souls to ever living death.
Calm down.
That's a plus.
She
Those states are stupid.
she has opinions, but I don't think enough, not just with the, especially with the neurodivergent kids, you know, a lot of the how to, I don't think they know how to masks. We didn't give them time to learn how to mask, which is a good thing in a lot of ways. But these adults don't know how to deal with kids who
the
aren't masked.
non-mask. And in some ways that speaks volumes about who we are as a society, that we can't handle we can't handle things that are different. And I fully admit my child's a lot. I tell people that all the time. Like he's a handful. If he's sassy to me on occasion, I know he's sassy to you and probably rolls his eyes on a couple of occasions if he is bothered by you enough. But at the same time, you have to understand where he's at, understand that you have support, you have options. Like I'm super engaged as a parent. Tell me what's going on. Just don't harass me necessarily. Like texting me all day, every day, wanting me to go up there and think I can't. But it's like you have support, you have people, you have some parents who are like, I really want to help, I really want to be there, I want to make this successful. But as a teacher, you've got to do some things too, and you can't have these biases. You just can't.
She's got some adults even currently who are like, well, I don't need you to tell me what to do with Leta. She's sweet, she's quiet, she doesn't speak a lot.
Their
Does it speak a lot?
freaking ever loving guts. And
Who
if I
says
could, I
that?
would throw them in a volcano, but apparently that is shame to just throw them, kick
Calm
them
down,
into
calm
a
down.
volcano. Well, so just drop
Leta,
them into
Leta.
Jurassic
I'm like,
Park, and I'll know how the
who
T-Rex
says
ate
that
them, because
Lita
there's no
doesn't
enough for the
talk?
T-Rex to eat them, because Leta can run, so the T-Rex will get them, because the humans aren't slow
Can I
enough
get
for
a word in?
T-Rexes. They are, though. They are. They're slow enough for T-Rex to eat them.
So yeah, she has some, she's going to a few neurotypical classes with dance because they're not all neurodivergent like us.
Yeah.
And she does get a little quieter in those classes, especially the bigger classes. And they're like, oh, I know what autism is. I don't, let me finish. I don't need you telling me about it. I don't need, I've got it. And I can tell her, because the latest thing she's been hearing a lot of is we need to quit telling everyone what your limitations are. We're just going to pretend you don't have your limitations.
Oh,
Yeah, I like my hip
okay.
in the out in joint. I like my hip not popped out. I like my hip where my hip is. Also, I'm not getting metal hip. Also, I like my hip where my hip is. Also, I would prefer not to re-pop that hip.
Oh my
Because
god.
once I forgot, I don't think I forget at 13. Also,
But
at least I know how big a ever-loving hip bone is. Because last time I checked, a hip bone doesn't go to your crotch. And last time I checked, it doesn't go to your ever-loving
calm down.
rib cage.
Rib cage. She can be quiet. I know it's hard to understand. But I'm at the point, I'm like, you know what? You could deal with me, which would probably be who you'd prefer to deal with, or you can deal with her. And you've chosen her. There is not much I can do to save you at this point.
Yeah. It's what I said earlier. Like, you've made your decision, you have made your choice. So I will let you have your choice. You'll come back.
I'm not sure they're coming back to me because I don't know that they're going to survive her.
I'm like, I love Lita. I'm like, she is so outspoken. And those teachers, they are brave. Because I'm like, no offense, Lita. I'm like, I would take your mom any day because I don't know if I can handle you. Like, I'll take you.
I mean, when she breaks, because she's had so many dance teachers that I've kept her in line. I'm like, you cannot be mean. You cannot be mean. Do not say what you're thinking. Do not say what you're thinking. And they think she's in love with them and that she likes them. And then when she breaks, they're like, what happened? And I'm like, I was trying to tell you, you told me to get out of the way and not interfere with your relationship.
When has that happened?
Almost every single dance studio.
Can you tell me the different responses, please?
What?
I accidentally hit my microphone cord.
Also, would they not
My ADHD.
advise me like the people in Jurassic Park that were absolute definite buffoons didn't survive Jurassic Park?
Yeah. Well, it's almost been an hour. Rebecca, we said we were only going to keep you to an hour. We're going to have you back on again if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
If you can handle more of her.
I said, I like Leta. There's so many kids nowadays who they're either silent by fear, or they really just don't have any opinions whatsoever because they're just drifting around. So it's fun to actually see somebody that has an opinion and a voice and is actually making valid points, like not just random stuff.
I will blame this on her village because the mentor she has out in LA for dance do not believe in being silent. And
well, we can't blame it that and on DNA.
We need more of that. We need, and you don't want our kids to have to do it, but our kids, especially at this point, this generation, if they have the ability to have a voice, we've got to give them the voice. We've got to give them what they need. And have to. Some of those mentors have been using their voice for a while now, and they would like her to maybe not be as Leta-y as she is, but when they started using their voice, it was the 60s and 70s, and we all had to be a little bit more ladylike back then.
Who cares about freaking ladylike? You get nowhere with that.
I'll go find my poodle skirt.
Debbie Allen does have her name on a dance studio for being a little ladylike.
But if you're ladylike, all you get is teen turned little bitch. If you're not ladylike, all you get is the whole kingdom.
If you're ever wondering what some of the Hollywood types are like behind closed doors, this is what they've trained my child into. Rebecca, where can people find you online?
Easiest place is always going to be LinkedIn. I'm on there a lot. It's really easy to get in contact with me. I, of course, have my website, www.ebgc.net. But over the next, 6 to 8 months, LinkedIn is probably the place. I'm releasing a comic book that I actually make for my son every month, like I draw it for him. So I'm going to actually be releasing that to the masses now that it's copyrighted and all the good stuff. So you're going to have to come back on the show and tell us all about the comic book. Yes. We're excited. Leta will be excited. She loves comic books. Yes, comic book. Well, we're going to make sure everything is on our website in the description so people can get a hold of you. We are definitely going to we loved having you on. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll have you back on soon. Yes, anytime. Can you say bye, Leta?
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you for watching the podcast, and please subscribe, and also look at the adorable paper. So if you want to subscribe for it, and also please leave a like, and don't forget, if you subscribe to our stuff, you won't miss any of our new podcast stuffies. And also, did you see the adorable paper? Don't you like it?